Hey, welcome back to another episode of Wisco Fanatics. Sorry about that. I was just checking some stuff. Tyler's going to be joining us later. Today, we are going to be covering the Wisconsin Badgers episode or game versus Michigan State. Tough loss, but I think they looked a little better. The offense was a little stagnant, but the energy level was exceptional in my opinion. Then we will be looking forward to the game against Purdue. And we have Bucks Primer. Bucks basketball is back, so that's exciting, especially after a tough weekend in sports for us Wisconsin fans. A couple losses. On the baseball end of things, we're watching the two teams we could have made it over, battle for a spot in the World Series, and our former closer is looking phenomenal right now. So let's get started with Wisconsin Badgers versus Michigan State. Badgers lost this one 28-34. So on the offensive end of things, offense versus Michigan State defense, 283 total yards for the Badgers, 131 pass, 152 rush yards. Time of possession, we actually won that. Pretty surprising. 32-43. And the thing that I talked about last week, which I think we needed to clean up, and is not my what to improve this week, but something that still needs to improve is the penalties. We had 8 penalties for 72 yards. Yes, Michigan State had a lot of penalties as well. They had 9 penalties for 103 yards. So all in total, 17 penalties for 175 yards in this one game. That is a lot of penalties and a lot of yards. They were 4-12 on third down. That's not going to cut it. You're not going to win a lot of games not being efficient on third down. I say that, and then I watched the Packers play the next day, and the Jets were not good on third down at all the entire game, and they ended up coming out with a win. We will cover that on Friday. I have some thoughts about that and why that happened. So 4-12 on third down. They were 2-2 on fourth down. So they were phenomenal on fourth down. Couple really, really good plays on fourth down. One of them was in the first overtime. Mertz made an absolute perfect throw, perfect route, and DK took it all the way. Let's go through the box score here on offense. So Graham Mertz, 14-24, 131 yards. He had the 2 touchdowns, like I said, the one in the overtime, and an interception. He had a couple passes that were near interceptions, including one in that first overtime that I keep alluding to, that should have been intercepted. He didn't play his best game, but by no means did he play bad. That's because the Packers' offense is stinky poo-poo, and the special teams gave up a block punt TD. Man, I had flashbacks, Matt. Wow. I think I set my own personal record for the amount of times I said the F word on Sunday. I cannot remember. I lied. I can. I remember when we had former Badger great Scott Tolzien at quarterback, and our offense was pretty bad back then too. But I've never seen it look this bad with Aaron Rodgers as quarterback. So that's why I think everybody thinks the world is falling and everything's wrong with the Packers. And a couple little cleanups here and there, and I think they're going to be fine. I honestly do. First thing to do is to reshuffle the offensive line, because this lineup that they have now, it ain't it. It's not working. It's not the right ingredients. So to get things started, they have to put Elton Jenkins back at left guard. That's my personal opinion. Kind of just beaten into submission at this point. Yeah, it's been tough. It's been a tough couple of weeks, man. I said this. I had a buddy over. My girlfriend's sister's boyfriend, if you could follow along with that. He's a big Badger fan. He's an alumni. He was in the military, so he's a good guy. He actually brought me to the Illinois game. I got free tickets to go to the Illinois game. Tough game to watch, especially live. But, I told him after the game, because he came over for the Packers game as well, I was like, if you would have told me that the Badgers and Packers have the same exact record, I would have believed you. If you would have told me they have the same record at 3-3, I would have laughed in your face. There would have been no way I thought that. because there's no way I thought the Packers were going to be 3-3. I think they're going to be 6-0. No, absolutely not. I thought they would lose one or two of them just purely off of the offense struggling. I think all of us can agree, all four of us that are on Friday nights, myself, Tyler, Bryant, and Simon. I don't usually speak for anybody else, but I will in this case. I think that we all agreed that the offense was going to struggle the first half of the season. Now, we have seen good things out of it, but to be honest with you, I didn't think we'd have growing pains like this. So let's go back to the Badgers real quick. Matt's getting me off topic here, but it's okay, Matt. I appreciate the comments, giving me some extra stuff to talk about. You look at Braylon Allen. He had a pretty good game. Yes, I understand he had the fumble at the end of the game. That was just an exceptional play by Michigan State, in my opinion. Got to give credit where it's due. He did have a good game, though. And I thought he was about to carry us to the win, man. He was barking a little bit. Yeah, Matt, I thought we'd be 4-2 as well at worst. So Braylon Allen, 29 carries, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns. He looked like a man amongst boys. 3 catches, 33 yards. He was playing tough. I will sorry, Packers have just been on my mind a lot. Hey, I get it. They're on my mind all day, man. We shared a meme on the page, if you haven't seen. This was a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, but it was your sports pie and what percentage they take up of 100%. And for me, Packers are easily 50% of that. You know, they're at least half of that. And then the Bucks are a big chunk. Brewers are probably the smallest chunk. I put the smallest amount of love I have for sports. There's still love there, but the smallest amount of love I have is to the Brewers. And then the Badgers and Brewers are probably the same. Bucks are a pretty big part of that. So needless to say, I'm pretty excited for tomorrow night. Excited to watch Giannis and the crew. I'm going to be without Middleton for a little bit, be without Pat Connaughton for a little bit. We'll get more into that later, but I'm excited. I don't know if you watched those games last night, but they were pretty good. Warriors are probably going to walk to the finals again, but we'll talk about that later. The Badgers, so receiving was not nearly as pretty in this game. I will say the touchdown that Mertz threw to Lewis was an absolute dime. And that was a great play call to tie the game late in the game. That was a great play call. Having a guy come underneath, make that corner, make a decision, because that's an easy touchdown right there if he doesn't come down on that drag route. And that's a great throw, great catch by Lewis as well. Let's switch to defense here. Michigan State was actually pretty consistent this entire game. Badgers defense definitely taking a step back this year. Front seven just doesn't get pressure like we're used to. So with that being said, you have a cornerback like Hallman who's left out to dry, it seems like every other week. He's looking like the guy that is targeted every week, you know, and he absolutely got abused on that last drive. He had the penalty, then he gave up the touchdown. It's like, you know, you want him to hold his head up because he's got the talent. He's a starter on D1 team. So he's got the talent. So he's got to put it together. And his teammates have to do a good job holding him up. In my opinion, I would always have safety help over the top of him. That's just my opinion. So Michigan State offense, they had 389 yards total, 290 passing, 99 rushing, 26-43 time of possession, and they were 7 of 15 on third downs. That is, you can't go 4 for 12 on your own side of the ball and then allow 7 of 15. The fact that they brought this game to double overtime is astounding to me. Honestly, if you're just a stats guy and you're looking at stats, you're looking at third downs, you're looking at yards per play, you're looking at total yards, rush yards. I mean, the Badgers' time of possession was really because they rushed the ball for 60 more yards. That's really what that is. So the Badgers defense, we got to find a way to get pressure. Somebody up front's got to win other than Herbig. It's easy when you only have one guy. They're just going to double him, right? That's a piece of cake. So 3 stars. My first star, I have Latu. The badass club he played with on Saturday. He looked legit. He had 13 tackles. 7 solo, and a tackle for loss a week after he had won Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week in Northwestern. So back-to-back good games for him. Braylon Allen, again, I said he was a man amongst boys. 29 carries, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns. Again, 3 catches for 33 yards. He would have had more yards. Mertz threw a bad pass. I would have loved to see Braylon Allen catch the ball with room to run in the open field one-on-one with one of those safeties. One of the safeties came down and made a really big tackle on Braylon Allen before the touchdown pass. And he was talking a little bit. I would have loved to see them just full speed run into each other because I don't know if that guy would have won a situation like that. You give Braylon Allen eyes to see you, like know you coming, it's going to be a different story. I promise you that. And then Mema and Jigma. He was, let me watch my words here. He was not great in the Ohio State game. I don't think either were. I don't think Jordan Turner was either. They didn't get deep enough in their pass coverage. He's been phenomenal ever since that game. He had a couple really stone cold tackles. He had one where he just filled the gap perfectly. He looked like an NFL linebacker on this one. And he dumped the running back, and it was just a great play. That's a linebacker right there. That's what a linebacker looks like. I mean, we should know. We produce enough of them in NFL. But he had 11 total tackles, 4 solo, and a pass defense. So that's the key right there. A pass defense. That's where I was referring to him not getting deep enough in his drops. But he's getting better at it. He's improving, and that's what you want to see. This loss dropped the Packers. No, I'm talking about the Packers, Matt. This loss dropped the Badgers to 3-4. So I'm going to go over their schedule, and I'm going to go over best case scenario for them because this is something that I wanted to do for a couple of weeks. I wanted to do it last week, but I was like, I'm going to wait to see if they win. If they win, then I'll hold off. But since they lost, I'm going to go over their schedule and say best case scenario, right? So next they play Purdue, right? Okay, that's a winnable game for the Wisconsin Badgers football team. What are the chances we make a bowl game? Well, I'll talk about that. So we're 3-4. You have to get to 6 wins to make a bowl, right? That's like the bare minimum. So Purdue, that's a winnable game. They're at home, and if they look as bad as they did the last time they were at home, because they just had back-to-back road games, we're really in trouble, buddy. But I think they're going to get the win this week. I really do. It's not just my fandom that is standing in the way. That's from my head. I truly believe the effort that they've given since Paul Chris has been fired. And no, it's not Paul Chris' fault or problem that they weren't playing with effort. That's on them. You got to hold yourself accountable, right? And that's why I think some of the players were so heartbroken that he got fired because they felt it was some of their responsibility that happened. And that's true. They didn't play with any fight. I saw that Illinois game with my own eyes. I was right there. And they just looked dead man walking. And you can say the same thing about the Packers right now. No energy. Absolutely no energy. They bring the energy for a drive or two. After that, they're like, oh, okay, we can coast. This is not a 60-minute game or anything like that. Like, that's not other professionals on the other side of the field or anything like that. Whatever. Like I said, I told Tyler I didn't want to talk about offense on Friday. I was like, do not give me any offense to talk about because I might cuss. And I'm trying to get better at not doing that. So Badgers say they beat Purdue, right? We're 4-4 now. Then they have another home game. They play Maryland. Maryland is not a pushover this year, but they're by no means a juggernaut as well. What's Maryland's record right now? Let's see. Maryland, they 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 3-1, 4-1, 4-2, 5-2. Wow, okay. So Maryland's pretty decent, actually. Thing about Maryland, they're coming to Wisconsin, so I think that will matter. I think the Badgers will win that game as well. I think we could beat a Maryland football team. I watched the second half of their game. Who the heck were they playing? Might have been Nebraska. I don't know. It might have been Nebraska, but they have Tua's brother at quarterback. Yeah. Jeff, I don't know if you're referring to the Badgers or the Packers, but that statement literally applies to both of them. Jeff's comment was, our O-line needs to be better, too much leakage. Yeah, it applies for both. And that's where I talked about at the beginning of the season that everything starts up front, right, on offense and defense. Maryland, I believe, gave Ohio State or Michigan a tough time, 34-27. Yeah, they played tough. Let me double check. I will double check on Maryland. I don't want to be throwing out randoms, so let me check. Oh, it was Michigan on September 24th, 34-27. You got the score exactly correct. Maryland's tough this year. They're better. They have, like I said, they have Tua's brother at quarterback, and he looks pretty legit, man. He's slinging that thing. That is a tough game. I'm going to mark it down as a win right now. But going to Iowa, that's tough. The Packers and Badgers online both look lost. They do. Purdue is 5-2 as well. That game scares me because they've looked all right. Yeah. Purdue's not a pushover either. And that's the thing. So Tyler and I have talked about Ben Bruss, right? And I don't know if you guys are familiar, but Ben Bruss is on a podcast now. And he talked after we lost to Illinois. And he talked about us facing Northwestern the next week and, the spread. And he's like, we used to be 30-point favorites versus Northwestern. And it's like, did you really think that none of these teams were going to improve? You think they were just going to stay 30-point dogs? That's not a way to run a program. You bring in head coaches to try to bring winning mentalities. You bring in players that fit that scheme and that mentality. It's like you're not just going to stay bad. It just makes no sense. And Purdue get NFL talent over there in Purdue, man. It's kind of surprising, but they do. That Purdue game is going to be tough. I won't lie. This Saturday, Badgers are going to have to bring it. But I'm going to say they're going to win that one. I'm going to say they're going to win the game against Maryland. And then we're in Iowa, right? And Iowa is a tough place to play. That start time is to be determined. So if that's a night game, that is going to be that's a tough place to play. Iowa defense is for real. They are for real. Their offense, not so much. So I don't know how I feel about that game. Both teams play each other tough in their home stadium. So that one I could mark down as an L. So puts at 4-4, 5-4, 5-5. Right now we're going into Nebraska at 5-5. Not the situation I wanted to be in, but here we are. Right. I think we're going to go in there. We're going to smack the hell out of them. I do not respect Nebraska football team at all. Scott Frost was held on far too long. I mean, good for us, I guess, but they're gonna fork out the money and they're gonna go get somebody. I think Nebraska football within the next couple of years is going to really, really turn it around. Matt, as a Badgers fan and an IU alum employee, I really dislike Purdue. I don't really like Purdue either, man. Every couple of years, I mean, they're pretty consistent, but they get a couple players in basketball, and it's just like, whoa. I mean, we saw it last year. They had Ivy, obviously, 5th overall pick in the NBA draft. That guy was just faster than fast. Super athletic and score wherever he wanted to. And then they have the Edey, I think his name is, the big, 7'4" guy. I mean, well, how the heck are we supposed to stop that? Well, what do you do with that? You stand there and you get dunked on like Steven Crowell did a couple times. He put up a fight. He tried. Speaking of that, we're going to have to do a Badgers basketball primer pretty soon. So watch for that. We're still planning the episode. And we're going to bring Mikey on, our Badger expert, for that one. So we're 5-5 after beating Nebraska, right? We got a battle for the axe. And I don't know if you guys watched Minnesota this last weekend, but they are starting to follow the Wisconsin blueprint. Purdue gave Penn State and Maryland great efforts. Believe they held on to beat Maryland. Purdue's offense is still tough. I hope our defense doesn't do what we did against Sparty. Yeah, man. I'll tell you right now, my what to improve for the Badgers this coming week is the deep pass coverage. And I'm going to say deep pass coverage, and I'm not going to go after one player, but it does seem to be on one player a lot. Obviously, you saw it in the Sparty game, but teams are just circling that guy over there on the right side, just like throw it deep. He doesn't have the greatest technique. He doesn't play the ball in the air very well. So if I was them, I'd go after him too. Just saying. That's why I said I would always roll a safety over the top of him. You can allow more passes to the left. Just keep them short. And that is how I would defend with this team. Obviously, Jimmy has a lot more on his table these days because he's taken over as the interim head coach. So that'll be interesting how they choose to attack. Purdue, they like to sling it, man. What did I see? Yeah, I'll just go over to this Purdue page real quick since we're talking about it. Purdue averages 250 passing yards per game. So that is not too shabby at all. 100 rush yards. And I mean, they average 215. I'm looking at their defense. Their defense gives up 250. Mertz better have a big day, huh? But they average 215 pass yards and 114 rush yards. So 330 yards total. That's not great, but as you've seen from the Badgers this year, their defense is just not what we're used to. And on defense, when you're not able to control the line of scrimmage and you're not able to get pressure on the quarterback to make him throw the ball quicker, it makes it tough for the corners and the DBs, I am super shocked with our lack of pressure that we were able to get as many turnovers as we have. I mean, that is shocking to me. So let's just start with this Wisconsin-Purdue game since we already got it rolling here. Jeff is talking about it. So Badgers on offense, 391 total yards, 220 pass yards, 170 rush yards. So when I talked about the 220 pass yards, that could be a little bit higher. I think sometimes the miscommunication between the receivers and Mertz, maybe Mertz not knowing where the receiver is supposed to be, either or, that's what I think happened on that near game-ending interception that Mertz almost had when he threw it into double coverage. I'm just sitting there like, who the hell is supposed to be over there? I'm not putting the blame all on Mertz, not putting it on the receivers, but it's like, what's going on here? Bobby Ingram's got to get those guys on the same page. We average 31.3 points per game. Purdue on defense gives up 24 points per game, 350 total yards. So it's a good chunk. 248 pass, 100 rush. So the way to attack this defense, just from looking at the stats, this is just me looking at the stats right now. The way to attack them is through the air, right? And I think Mertz has been pretty good at that this season, given the criticism that he receives, right? Then you go down the line of the receivers. I don't know if you guys heard the news, but Marcus Allen has decided to enter the transfer portal. And that's a big hit for me because he was my favorite receiver coming into the season. I really liked his big body, his jumping ability. Yeah, right. Needs to realize there's other receivers besides DK. Yeah, I agree with that. He does a pretty good job finding Keontae Lewis from time to time. I'll be honest with you. But yeah, DK is definitely his tunnel vision. It hurts when we lose all these tight ends, and now we're on like our third or fourth tight end at this point. So that does hurt. Also, the offensive line just not being consistent. They played so good against Northwestern, and then, and I understand that it's a jump in talent and jump in, atmosphere and all that stuff, but the offensive line I don't think was great on Saturday. Matt commented, Mertz is probably looking for Danny Davis like Rodgers is looking for Devontae and throwing it to Ghosts. Yeah. Packers offense is something else right now, man. True on the tight ends. Yeah. I do agree with you, though. He does need to look for other receivers, but the tight ends thing is definitely hurting him. I would like to see us, and I know Ches Malusi's hurt now, and he was kind of that guy that was like the dual threat guy in our offense, I'll say. But I would like to see us use Isaac Garendo on some screens. I think that could be something that could work well. He already had him on kick return, so he's got the speed. Just get him a little bit open field. If the pass rush is killing our offensive line, call a screen every once in a while. I think that's something that could really, really be useful. Go to Tyler's guy, Isaac Garendo, let him get some open field and go crazy, man. How you doing, buddy?
Super.
Yeah,
I'm here.
Good.
All right, bud, where are you at so far? I heard a little bit of your shtick so far, but where are you at so far?
I'm still focusing on the Wisconsin Badgers offense versus the Purdue defense. We just started talking Wisconsin Purdue, so I was like, I'll just start the preview real quick. And Jeff in the comments said that Mertz needs to realize there's other receivers other than DK, and I pointed out how he does a pretty good job finding Countess Lewis at times. And I said I would like, and I brought up the tight ends because party's over, Matt said, but. I said that we don't have any tight ends left. We're on like the fourth tight end right now. So
we literally had an offensive lineman suited up at tight end last week.
Yeah, that's tough. And then I pointed out with the offensive line struggling, I would like to see Garendo used as a receiving option from time to time. I think that could be interesting. Especially in wide receiver or running back screens. Just let them go. Let them go crazy, man. Line them up against a linebacker and just let them go on a fly or something,
He was my X factor last week, and I was kind of bummed to see that he wasn't involved that much.
Yeah.
He had a couple nice kick returns. Up when you get to the last drive of the Michigan State game, the kick return that he had set up the game-tying touchdown.
Yeah.
That was huge. So, I guess as an X factor is concerned, he did benefit the team that way.
Didn't even think of that.
I guess real quick, I just wanted to go back into couple things that I just wanted to share about the recap. One on the offensive side, which was Braylon Allen scored his 20th touchdown of the year, or 20th career touchdown. Shouldn't say of the year. That'd be nuts. And he's also the fifth fewest games to reach 2,000 yards. I'm not sure if he threw that out there. It only took him 19 games to reach 2,000 yards.
I did not throw that out there.
That's nuts. And then on the defensive side, I heard you talking about the Badgers' effort. And I really wanted to drive that home with a quote from the linebacker and John Meta. He said after the game, I'm going to cherish for a long time the fight that we had today. Maybe we had some previous losses where people gave up, threw in the towel before it was time. Said there was no quit today.
See, and you could tell that on the field. You could see that in their body language. And that's definitely something that Jim he's getting 100% out of the guys. That's the one credit I could give Jim.
And, it's the game, honestly, what it came down to is I give Michigan State credit for how they played in the overtime periods. The catches that their wide receivers made, it's impressive. They made really nice plays. There's no denying that. And then obviously when you add in the fumble on top of it, that pretty much sums up why the Badgers lost. That being said, I wanted to throw out a few positive takeaways that I had from this game because I know there's a lot of negativity floating around as far as the state of Wisconsin is concerned with football right now. But you brought up one of them already, the Graham Mertz touchdown to Lewis on 4th and goal. Braylon Allen in the beginning of this game was just breaking tons and tons and tons of tackles. So that was encouraging to see Braylon Allen breaking tackles. They got a stop on 4th and goal in the first quarter. And then Isaac Garendo, I mentioned the kickoff return that he had to the 48-yard line. The one thing that I'm very glad to see the Badgers have improved on in this game specifically, after talking about it through the first 6 weeks of the season, is the Badgers actually defended screens really well in this game.
Yeah, that's true.
So that was actually really encouraging when we talk about things that the Badgers can improve, and then seeing them improve defending screens. That's progress. That's encouraging to see that progress. So I was really happy to see that. Flipping over to how they can improve, for me, I'm looking at improving the tackling. It's pretty much self-explanatory. You have to tackle. We talked about this not this past season, but the season before when Jair Alexander and Adrian Amos were the leading tacklers all the time. You don't want people in your secondary being your leading tacklers, which is what Kamoe Latu was on Saturday. The other things that I brought up or wanted to bring up, penalties. That's something we've discussed with both of these teams actually, and then Michigan State decided to rack up a shit ton of penalties. Graham Mertz feeling pressure. When Graham Mertz feels the pocket start to collapse, we talked about, I know you and I texted about this on Saturday, that there is a strong correlation to the Badgers offensive line play and wins and losses. Strong correlation.
Oh, yeah.
And when Graham Mertz has time to throw, he can hit those deep balls. That's what Keon says Lewis means to this offense, honestly, is hitting that deep ball. So seeing if Graham Mertz can take his game to the next level when it comes to sensing pressure, that would be, he's a decent runner, actually. He's like a decent athlete. So seeing if Graham Mertz can actually, leave the pocket once in a while. We'll see if he can continue to work on that. And then the last thing was disguising the run on early downs. They did do some of this during the game, using Lewis and Skylar Bell kind of running across the formation before running the ball. And they kind of did that, I don't know, probably 3, 4, 5 times. And then when it got to a 2nd and 18, they ran an end around to Skylar Bell, and he took it for 20 yards and a long conversion. So, keep doing stuff like that. Maybe some more pre-snap motion to kind of disguise the run a little bit, just to not make it so obvious that we're going to run the ball, even though that's what the Badgers want to do anyways, and they'll still do it to you.
Right.
But those are the things that I'm looking for how to improve. As far as the preview goes, is there anything else you wanted to say about the Purdue Purdue defense against the Badgers offense?
No, I just think the offensive line has to hold up. I do want to answer Matt's question. Matt, that is true, and I've talked about that a million times.
Yeah, that's true.
About it. The thing about the Packers is Rodgers was able to manipulate that, and now as he's getting older, I was going to wait to say this on Friday, but I'm going to say it now. It's almost like Rodgers has lost a step in his speed, his acceleration, and now he's not able to hide that kind of stuff. So when you have a guy in Newman who completely goes the other way on a block, Rodgers is not able to break that and escape
just a 300-pound domino.
Yeah. So, yes, it does mean that in almost every football game. But we, as Wisconsin fans, as Packers fans, we're so used to Rodgers being able to manipulate that and change a play and kind of go backyard football, as they like to say, and make
throw on the run when he flushed out of the pocket.
Right. So, yeah, now that might be why the Packers offense looks as bad. And Wisconsin is very much predicated on the run yet, right? So offensive line is more important to a Wisconsin team because, like Tyler brought up a couple weeks ago, less possessions. So now you get a holding penalty and it's one of your 10 drives of the game. That's massive. That is a massive, massive penalty. It means
essentially
more.
10+% part of your entire offensive opportunity.
That's a massive, massive hit. If you don't block somebody and you only get a 1-yard run when you need 4 yards on a 3rd down, that's massive. Yeah, I saw that too, Jeff. I think that we're gonna get a surprise on Sunday. That's gonna be one of my Simon says. Just want to let you know right now. I think we're in for a surprise in the offensive line after listening to LaFleur today.
Cool.
But talking about Purdue, they get, like I said before, they get NFL talent on this team. They give up a lot of yards this year. I think offensive line is going to be very important this game, obviously, for Wisconsin. And I think Mertz is going to be the guy this game. Last week I talked about Braylon Allen being the guy, and he was for most part until the fumble. But I think Mertz is the guy this week.
So for me, looking at the Badgers offense against Purdue's defense, I am also looking at Graham Mertz. He has thrown 102 fewer passes than Purdue's quarterback and has one more touchdown.
Yeah. I hate that you do that, man. You always make me go. So people are always like, "What's that stupid face?" Well, Tyler said something cool. That's why.
I'm waiting for Tyler to pay off his cool stat face.
That's exactly what that is.
Purdue also gave up 37 points to Nebraska, of all teams. And they gave up big play after big play after big play. And then I just want to throw out that Braylon Allen is averaging 5.7 yards per carry. As we switch to Purdue's offense against the Badgers defense, Huckabee is a freshman running back for Purdue. He is also averaging 5.7 yards per carry. When it comes to the Badgers defense against Purdue's offense, you have to wrap up on tackles, whether it means going lower and wrapping up legs, or finishing tackles and going through a player. You just have to wrap up and make tackles. Huckabee, the Purdue running back, he breaks a lot of tackles. Granted, he was playing Nebraska, but still, you have to wrap up and make tackles. John Torchio, he kind of disappointed me on one play last week. The big play that they had to their big body wide receiver, Torchio was 2 steps behind him, and instead of going for his legs to make a tackle, he kind of did the thing when like a player dribbles past you in basketball where you try to like slap the ball from behind them. He did that, and that contributed to the big play getting bigger.
He was scared of that big boy running. I'll tell you that right now.
I know, but like, dude, just slap his foot so that he trips on his other leg, like.
Right,
that's what Herbig
just
tried
throw
to do
your rib cage into his legs, man. Just trip him up. That's all you have to do. If you would have just tripped him up, we would have been
fine. And then just don't arm tackle around the torso. Like, if you try to put an arm tackle on somebody's chest, like, it's not even gonna matter. Like, he might as well be running through a car wash made out of pool noodles. Like, so that's that. As far as matchups. I'm looking at Jake Chaney and Cedric Dort. Those two are both reportedly healthy and should be good to go for Saturday. So I'm very excited to see those two back on the field, especially Chaney, because he had his best game the week before against Northwestern and then had to sit out a game. So we'll see what happens with those two healthy. Hopefully they can both stay in the full game. But what are you looking for from Purdue's offense against the Badgers defense?
Okay. First of all, Jeff, we gave up 34. We lost 34-27. And then for me, they have a wide receiver, Purdue does, and he is probably about 90% of their production when you look at their receiving stats. Charlie Jones. He is questionable for the game on Saturday, as I checked this morning. But he has 62 receptions, 735 yards, and 9 touchdowns.
Damn.
He last year it was David Bell on that offense. Charlie Jones is that guy this year. So Charlie Jones, how Wisconsin defends him is really going to determine a ton of this game. I love your point about the running back. That is great. I'm glad you're covering the running game and I'm covering the passing game. So now Wisco Fanatics is covered on defense for Wisconsin. So,
dynamic duo. All right.
Didn't even plan this, people. This just happens. But Charlie Jones.
Chemistry.
Yes, sir. Charlie Jones is the guy for me to watch. On offense, we can give our matchups too if you wanted to. I don't know. Did you have a matchup on offense you were watching for Badgers?
I'm still watching Graham Mertz.
Okay, so I said this is a Graham Mertz game, but Bobby Ingram has to have that creative mind working. Has to continue to find a way to get the ball to Allen and DK. If it's in space, if it's off short screens, if it's just calling hike and you're letting everybody else run a route, but you're telling Graham Mertz throw it to Braylon Allen, I don't care what it is. Find a way to get the ball to those two. Those are your playmakers, right? So for me, those are the matchups on offense and defense.
So that brings it to an interesting point because I have another wide receiver who I would classify as my X factor for this game. And it's because of watching Purdue play against Nebraska and watching Nebraska beat Purdue deep in the passing game like 7 times.
Okay.
So I went with Keontez Lewis. Keontez Lewis is the Badgers' big play guy. He's good at getting separation. And when Graham Mertz has time to throw, he's hit him on some deep balls. So if the Badgers' offensive line can play better, like they did against Northwestern, and like they've shown themselves to be capable of, Graham Mertz can hit some deep shots to Keontae Lewis and to Kimmeray DK if he's running those types of routes. But I would say that Keontae Lewis is the Badgers' best big play wide receiver.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So for my X factor, I went with Graham Mertz. Whether it's throwing to Keontae Lewis, your X factor, whether it's getting the ball to DK, or if it's getting the ball to Skyler Bell. Skyler Bell can fly too. He's got some pretty good wheels on him. Maybe we see a little bit more Isaac Garendo, which I would love, which you would love too. I would just love to see Graham Mertz have another 5 touchdown game, just to kind of quiet the haters for another week. Because it was nice leading up to this game having everybody be quiet, to be honest with you. But I would love to see Graham Mertz have another game and lead the Badgers to a big victory.
Honestly, Matt, his interceptions have been more like right around 10 yards as far as air targets are concerned. The one that he had against Illinois was a deeper shot, but that was also a tipped ball.
His interceptions have strictly, and I will say this, been poor decision making.
Yeah.
Straight up. Other than that, his ball placement this year, we've said it a million times, probably continue to say it to the end of the season, has been phenomenal.
I agree. If you can discern those two, you can really start to see like Graham Mertz has improved as a quarterback. As far as his physical abilities have gotten from last year to this year, it's night and day. Like he's making throws this year that he did not make last year.
100%. Matt, I'm going to give you a challenge this week. It's going to be tough, man. So every once in a while during the games, when I know that I'm going to have to take notes and I want to feel like a scout, I take my fandom off and I just watch the game strictly as prospects. So when you're watching the Badgers and you're watching Graham Mertz, take away that you love the Wisconsin Badgers. And I know it's hard, but I've had to do it myself because I wanted to, fairly critique him. Take that off and watch Graham Mertz play. And I promise you, you will see some more good things than bad things. I promise you that. That's my challenge for you, Matt. If you do that, then you're right on board with us, buddy.
You got an X factor for this game?
It's still Graham. It's still Graham Mertz. He's the guy. I kind of pick him just because I like talking shit to people, like against the Northwestern game when somebody was already posting after the first drive. Like I love that moment where it's just like, shut up, dude. You know what I mean?
Like when people, the Brewers would be down like 2-0 in the third inning.
Yeah, like watch the whole game, see what happens. Like even if Graham Mertz has 2 turnovers in the first half, Badgers are down 10-0 on Saturday. He could come back out after halftime like a bad mother and just go crazy in the second half, throw 3 touchdowns, 250 yards, Badgers go on to roll, right? Watch the entire game. That's all I'm saying.
All right, so with the Badgers, Jim Leonard mentioned that he's looking for more consistency. That was one of the things that he brought up. And, it's been we have a 2-game sample size of Jim Leonard and Bobby Ingram kind of running this team. So I think, as far as the Brewers or the Badgers are concerned, I think we're starting to get a little bit into the identity shift that a lot of people are calling for, where it's not run the ball 50 times a game and pass the ball 20 times a game. So, I think we're starting to get into that. I want to put this out there because I'm torn if I believe that it's more important than wins or losses is for the Badgers to find their new identity under Jim Leonard. I think this is potentially a good question to ask, just to ask Mike, to ask, just Badger fans in general. Obviously, it goes without saying that you want to win every game you play. I recognize that. But when it comes down to if you'd rather finish a season 7-5 or 6-6 and do it by discovering the way that you want to play in the future and the way that Jim Leonard wants to coach his team, the way that he wants to manage his team, how he wants to handle the play calling duties on offense and defense. Now that he's not just a defensive coordinator anymore, it's now his job to also worry about the offense. So him and Bobby Ingram are just starting to integrate these things together. Obviously, they're on the same team and they've been coordinators together, but like they're not working, you're in control of the offense, I'm in control of the defense. It's now I'm in control of the defense and we are in control of the offense.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm looking also at some of these things with the way that the Badgers could potentially start to shift their identity. That being said, my key to victory, pretty much the same thing I've said for the last couple of minutes, is just hitting big plays. Just hit some big plays is my key to victory because Purdue has shown themselves susceptible to it.
I love that. And if I had to choose, I would take 6-6 because finding out who you are, this could be a personal thing. You could take this any way you want. This is why I fucking love sports with everything about me. You could find out who you are and then start to kill. But if you go 7-5 and you're still uncertain, you got nowhere to start. But if you find that starting point at 6-6, and I think that they're starting to figure it out, because like I said before, the effort, you can just tell it's just worlds better than what it was in that Illinois game. They look like a bunch of dead bodies walking on that field. Northwestern, they were flying. Michigan State, they were flying for the most part.
Yeah.
Michigan State punched back, and credit to them because that's what good teams do. Yep. They punch back. That was a hell of a game on Saturday.
I agree.
It sucked that we lost. That was a great football game to watch.
I agree.
There was some defense. There was some offense. There was a little bit of sloppiness with the penalties. There was some turnovers. That was exciting football.
Overtime.
Yeah, that was awesome. I mean, there was a game time
touchdown
football
game.
Fourth
that was
down.
A Big Ten football game.
Yeah, there was a game time touchdown on fourth down in the overtime. I mean, that's exciting shit. So I love that. I love that 6-6. Find out who you are. That's awesome. Good shit. I'm gonna read Matt's comment. He said, "Is Jim Leonard actually running to be head coach next year? I saw a lot of buzz about other candidates initially and haven't kept up." Listen, man, we all know this to be true, and they're not gonna say it. It's Jim Leonard's job to lose at this point.
It's honestly, I don't even think it's his job to lose. I think it's his job to accept or decline. Honestly,
yeah.
They use the word. The reason that we brought up other candidates a couple weeks ago was strictly because McIntosh, when making the announcement, used the word interim when he brought up Jim Leonard. So I think they're just going to have Jim Leonard finish out the year. And then at the end of the season, they're going to say, "Hey, Jim, do you want to stay the head coach? Do you want to go back to being defensive coordinator?" And then they'll go from there. Like I said, strictly because they use the word interim. If they had introduced him as this is our new head coach, Jim Leonard, that would have made me feel like the job was filled. But to me, it still feels more of like a to be determined at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's his. I really do.
Jeff echoes our sentiment that it made for a fun game to watch. And like you said, it would have been a fun game to come out on top of. But,
yes,
as far as being a football fan goes, it's still a fun game to watch.
Oh, really?
Jeff brought up Kansas and Washington State. Kansas coach said no. I mean, if he's got full reins over in Kansas and, maybe he likes where he's at and he likes the players that he's got. Which reminds me, speaking of players that coaches have, Marcus Allen also entered the transfer portal. Yep. He was a Paul Chryst guy. So him entering the transfer portal doesn't really shock me. And then when you add in the fact that he kind of had some drops early in the year and then got passed up on the depth chart by Keontez Lewis and Skylar Bell, it doesn't really shock me that Marcus Allen is entering the transfer portal.
Yeah. I mentioned that before.
Okay. I just want to throw out my thoughts on that because just wanted to throw out that he was a Paul Chryst guy.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's go into some score predictions. Got two of them to do.
All right.
I'll let you go first. Give me your score prediction from the head.
All right, my score prediction from the head. This is definitely the more analytical one. definitely the one that's going to happen because it's coming from my head. 31-21.
31-24, huh? I unfortunately don't see a relaxing of stress for Badgers fans. I said 31-30.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sheesh. All right.
Like,
my score prediction from the heart is close to that. 37-30.
my score prediction from the heart, I went basically more points for the Badgers, less points for Purdue. I went 42-24.
Jeff, I love it. We've never had a fan participate in the score predictions. I love it. He says Bucky 35-33.
35.
I'm gonna write down your score, Jeff. I write down the scores every week.
Yeah, come back next Wednesday, Jeff. Jake will keep track of it for you.
I like to keep track. Jeff says 35-33. Okay. That would be a hell of a game. Allen, 150 yards. Okay.
I can see that.
Let me write that down too real quick, man. Okay. I gotta get my other pen. Allen.
Ooh, Matt said Purdue 28-24.
Matt is 28-24.
I think the Badgers are going to hit some big plays. That's why I gave Badgers 31.
I don't think Purdue's very good on defense. That's why I said that we were going to score 30.
Their defense is leaky, but so was Nebraska's. That's why they ended up winning that game.
Right.
Really going to come down to, and this is the way that I predicted it, obviously, with my score prediction, is the Badgers just getting one more stop than Purdue, and that pretty much being the game. That's the point I'm at with the defense is that, even though they've been inconsistent at times, like Jim Leonard said, it's still close. You know what I mean? Like it's still close to being a good defense, but
they just don't have the playmaker up front that is always in the quarterback's face. Matt, you're a fool, man. You're a fool. I'm not picking them to win games so they look better. See, I can't do that. I always have to pick them. Unless it's against Ohio State. Then I know. No, not happening.
All right. Do you have anything else as far as the Badgers are concerned?
No. Nope.
All right. Well, we have some basketball then.
Let's go, baby.
Basketball talk. The NBA started up again yesterday.
Yes, they should, Jeff.
So to do a little warm up for the Bucks, I have
here we go, baby.
2 questions to ask you. Both of them are trade related to kind of warm up for this. So, first question, what % chance would you give Grayson Allen of being on the team after the trade deadline?
Oh. You're a bastard. You know I just wrote that article last night. You know I love me some Marjan. I'm going to say there's definitely some factors that I'm thinking of.
Ooh.
I'll say 50%.
I was thinking 50% as well. We have 50-50. Jeff gives it a 1.33% chance.
So tell me you don't like Grayson Allen without telling me you don't like Grayson Allen.
Matt, the Giants just beat the 33%. That's fair. He gives them a 1/3.
The Giants are good this year.
I was just going to say that. The Giants beat the Ravens, and the Jets have a legit defense. They really do.
The Jets are good this year, too. They're exciting with Zach Wilson at quarterback. He gives them an extra spice. Gives them I'm
not super sold on their offense yet, but their defense is legit.
Breece Hall is the truth. I'll just say
that's fair.
But anyway,
33%. I was thinking 50-50, honestly.
Yeah, he's got a 50-50. There's some. You want me to get my thoughts on it? Why I picked 50?
Go ahead.
Well, the emergence of Joe Ingles could hurt him. If Marjan lives up to his hype of being a first-round pick and everything we heard about him being able to score, play defense, the fact that Wes Matthews, literally, if he just shoots the ball better, could permanently steal his starting shooting guard spot, which I think he probably will anyways because, Bud likes the defense.
I think it'll be like that I think it'll be like last year where like Grayson will start most of the year just because he's younger. And then
Yeah.
once we get to like tune-up time for the playoffs, then they'll put Wesley Matthews in.
Yeah, so that I mean, we got a lot of wings, man. If Pat comes back strong, I mean, we're gonna have plenty of wing players. I think if they trade him, it has to be for a center, a backup center. That's what I think.
Honestly, I liked what I've seen from Serge Ibaka so far.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
So we'll get into that a little bit. The second question that I have for you, as far as warm-ups go, you need to put these 3 players in order of the likelihood that the Bucks trade for them.
All right, let me write them down. I'm ready.
Okay, so put these 3 in order of the likelihood that you trade for them.
Okay.
Jay Crowder, Jordan Clarkson, and Mo Bamba.
Clarkson.
Jeff, Grayson Allen did struggle with a hip injury for most of the second half of the season, so that could be a factor in it. That said, he did still play well overall and have a strong first round of the playoffs and then a not so strong second round of the playoffs.
All right. So my third place and the least likely in my position would be Mo Bamba. I know that's probably shocking.
I put him on the list because I want him on the team.
I know. I want him to. He's got a cool name. He's got a rap song about him. I mean,
he
awesome.
fits the mold of what the Bucks want to do with their centers too.
He could run the floor with Giannis and get some easy buckets on the fast break. He can block shots.
He can shoot threes and block shots.
Right. Second, I put Jay Crowder. Just because, like I said, there's a log jam at that 3 or 4 position on the Bucks already. And then first, I think it's Clarkson. I think he would. That's a championship level move to me. Going to get a legit scorer outside of Giannis and Middleton that like off the bench, you leave him in with a Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday, just let him do his thing like he does with Chris.
Yep.
Clarkson, you handle the ball, you take all the shots, you go make it happen. He's a big time player.
Give you 25 a night.
I think Clarkson would be a championship level move.
I think he's the one that the Bucks have shown the most interest in as well, or at least reported interest in. Mo Bamba is purely a speculation point by me just because he fits the mold. Like I said, he blocks shots and shoots threes. So, I mean, what more do you want from the center if you play for the Bucks? And then Jay Crowder, it almost makes too much sense for Jay Crowder to be on the Bucks just because of what they did with PJ Tucker 2 years ago. But that's why I threw him on the list. So those are my warm-up questions. So we can now do our Bucks primer questions. We're going to do first. We're going to start with teams that stand in the way of the Bucks that pose the biggest threat in the East. We're going to give them a 1 through 10 threat level that they pose to the Bucks in the Eastern Conference. So you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
I talked more in this episode, so you go first.
All right. So I'm going to go in order of, as far as the way that I rank them, I'm going to go in the order of least threat to highest threat. So the 3 teams that I have are the Bulls, the Heat, and the Celtics. So I'm going to start with the Bulls. I have them at a 4 out of 10 on a threat level to the Bucks. They added Goran Dragic and Andre Drummond. Dragic is basically just a stopgap for Lonzo Ball until he's healthy. And then Drummond, he's not versatile enough to move the needle for me for Chicago. He's a really good rebounder. He's a great rebounder, but like I said, he's not versatile enough to move the needle for Chicago for me. So I have the Bulls at a 4 out of 10.
Okay. So I will go the same way. So my teams that I have are the 76ers, the Cavaliers, and the Nets. So it was hard for me to pick a number for the 76ers because I'm like, on one hand, they got Joel Embiid. Guy is absolutely a stud on both ends of the court. Top 10 player in the league, no question to me.
Yep.
On the other hand, they have James Harden.
Yeah.
So I don't have to talk a lot to get you to buy into that. The third part of that is Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey is a young budding star, in my opinion. And if they can find a way to get James Harden to buy in to the team first mentality, I think that they could be dangerous. Do I think that's going to happen? This many years into his career, 13 years into his career, maybe 12? No, not going to happen. I have them as a threat level of 5.
That's fair. For a dude that forced his way off of 2 teams in 2 years, like, I don't know what Philadelphia saw outside of being able to get rid of Ben Simmons. I just, I don't see anything from James Harden that makes me believe that he would all of a sudden adopt a selfless mindset.
That was funny as hell, Jeff. That was so funny. He
the
did
thing
all
with
that
Harden, like, I never really enjoyed watching him play just because his offense during his peak years was basically isolation, try to get fouls to get to the free throw line. Yeah, it was cool that he scored 35 points a night, but when you get 20 free throws a game, like, that doesn't impress me.
Yeah.
And then on top of that he basically just lollygagged on defense to conserve energy to play offense. Like, that never sat well with me either. And then it got worse last year. So they're in their shot made me LOL so hard. The last year they're in an elimination game against the Miami Heat and they're getting blown out. And James Harden is just jogging up and down the floor. And he's just standing on the 3-point line. Like, he's not even moving to try to get open. He's not trying to get the ball. Like, he pretty much, honestly, he just, like, pouted up and down the floor for the last 5 minutes of the game.
Let me ask you a question. How the hell does PJ Tucker see that? Because he was on the other end of that. And he still decided to sign there.
I mean, money's got to be a factor.
He's got a lot of shoes.
I don't know. Like, maybe the allure of playing with Joel Embiid was enough.
Yeah.
Maybe Doc Rivers was enough.
Philadelphia.
I mean, was he in Houston at the same time as Harden? He might have actually already. Okay, so there might be a little bit of chemistry there, but
he would remember when they he was the one that turned into the center when they traded
Capella
to Atlanta. Yeah. So PJ Tucker was a 6'6" center.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. All right. So my second one, I have the Miami Heat. Personally, I don't feel that they got better. I don't feel that the Miami Heat got better. They extended Tyler Hero, and that was pretty much their biggest offseason move. Like, they lost PJ Tucker. They extended Tyler Hero. That was pretty much all they did.
They
have a pretty decently. What's that?
Did they bring back Oladipo?
Yes.
Okay.
So they're basically the same team they were last year. Okay. And they have some nice reserves in Max Strus and Gabe Vincent, and they have a player coach in Udonis Haslem. But honestly, I don't feel that they got better this season. I think they're going to be a really good regular season team. But as far as the Eastern Conference goes, I have them at a 5 as well.
Okay, I like it. So my next team is the Cleveland Cavaliers. They are an interesting team. Obviously, adding a guy like Donovan Mitchell instantly puts you on everybody's radar. Mm-hmm. So that guy's a star. He could score. He's fantastic. The thing that really is going to be the scariest thing about the Cavaliers is that they are young and hungry. The hunger,
and athletic as hell.
Yeah. I mean, they're very talented. When you combine young, hungry, and talent, that is a very dangerous combination. So adding Donovan Mitchell is very big. To me, the key, Isaac, you're going to love this.
Isaac's going to become a Cavaliers fan because
he already said it. He already said it. The key to the Cavaliers is if Mobley takes that jump. He already showed brilliant flashes of being a rim protector, shooting, scoring. If he could take that jump, the Cavaliers will be very, very dangerous. I mean, Dad, you would think that, but that's not true. Look at the Lakers. They don't look very hungry. They just look old. I have the Cavaliers as a 7-level threat to the Milwaukee Bucks.
Wow, that's high.
They're scary.
So the Cavaliers, honestly, outside of if you set aside the guards, so set aside Garland, and Mitchell for a second, and you look at Mobley and Jarrett Allen,
Yeah.
it gives me like a shade of 2018 Bucks vibes,
Okay.
where you kind of got like they had Jabari Parker and then Giannis
Yep.
and Thon Maker, and they just had all these
John
tall,
Henson.
lanky guys that
Yep.
have like all this potential. Like that's kind of the vibe I get from the Cavaliers. Like I feel like they're gonna start making, this year is gonna be the first, they'll get a 6 seed this year, and then they'll get a 5 seed next year, and then they'll maybe get a new coach, and then they'll be one of the best teams in the East. So they are gonna be they're going to be a factor in the Eastern Conference for sure. Honestly, they'll probably be a fun team to watch. But I think I would put them at a second round exit, honestly. For me, I'd probably have the Cavaliers around a 6 maybe instead of a 7.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't pick them in a 7-game series over the Celtics, the Nets, the Bucks, or the 76ers.
I might pick them over the Nets, even though I have them higher, but that would be a damn good series.
That would be a fun series to watch.
That'd be a fantastic.
If the Bucks are in the Eastern Conference Finals and there's still 2 games to play between Nets and Cavaliers, I'm going to watch those games and have a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, those are going to be those would be fantastic. Donovan Mitchell can go toe to toe with Kyrie Irving.
Oh yeah, dude,
Toe-to-toe.
like when Donovan Mitchell and Jamal Murray went toe to toe in the
Yeah,
bubble.
that was nuts.
Oh, that was so much fun to watch.
The bubble was a weird place, man. And Isaac has good memories from it. We do not. But that was a weird place. I mean, people were just going crazy. Who the heck am I thinking of on the Pacers? God damn it.
I think of TJ Warren.
Oh, yeah. Was he on the Pacers then?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, he had like that 50-point game or whatever. I was like, he's a nobody. Why is he scoring like this?
He's good for that like once a year, and then he'll score like 9 points the rest of the year.
For real. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. But anyways, let's stay on
All right, so my last team is the Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
They lost their coach, Ime Udoka. He's out for the year. He's probably going to get fired when it all is said and done.
Yeah.
They added Malcolm Brogdon. It helps their point guard room, but it also means probably less playing time for Marcus Smart, because they ran Marcus Smart at the point guard position in their series against the Bucks last year. He basically just became the de facto point guard, similarly to the way PJ Tucker became the center for the Rockets, just because he was the next best player on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
So it could potentially mean less time for Marcus Smart. Grant Williams is going to be a guy to keep an eye on for the Celtics, because he is on the last year of his rookie deal, and they did not tender an extension to him. So he is a restricted free agent. He did not get a new deal. So he could potentially be traded if the Celtics don't have the season that they want to, because he would be a free agent at the end of the season. He was a Bucks killer. He was like a big reason that the Celtics won Game 7. If he didn't flop so much, I might actually like him, but it is what it is. And then the Celtics get a big fat L for signing Blake Griffin. You get a gigantic L for signing Blake Griffin.
A team that flops,
he does.
He goes there. He's a flopper, so he fits in perfectly with that team.
Dude,
it's laughable.
He doesn't play defense. He doesn't play offense, and he doesn't dunk like he did 10 years ago. He's Blake Griffin, honestly, as far as this point is concerned in his career. Like, he had a cool career, and like he was fun to watch. But at this point, like, I really feel that Blake Griffin is washed up.
Yeah.
Sorry, Blake Griffin.
Dad, the NBA does flop, but they are the worst, by far worst team at flopping. Marcus Smart, the worst at flopping. Grant Williams is very close second. Blake Griffin gets all those charge calls. He's a big old flopper. It's a Kardashian reject. Hey, that's a long, long list. That is a long reject list.
Hey, just wait. If Blake Griffin gets hurt, like, the Celtics might call up Chris Humphries and see what he's up to.
Another season. Yeah, and then if he gets hurt, they can call up Lamar Odom.
Oh man.
The one that's not a reject.
We need an old power forward. Let's just go through the Kardashian phone book.
Oh gosh. All right. I'm gonna say some inappropriate stuff. We keep going. So, my number one team on my list is the Brooklyn Nets. Simply for the reason that KD and Kyrie, as dysfunctional as they are fucking good. Okay, point blank. Period. They're ball dominant. They are scoring a lot of points dominant. They do whatever they have to do in a playoff series. I do not want to face KD. With the game on the line. I mean, that's still scary to me.
On the line.
Didn't even mean to do that. It just happened. But yeah, KD, he's still in the running for best player in the league, even though that title belongs to Giannis right now.
Yep.
I do believe that Nick Claxton has improved a ton in the last couple of years. They did add some depth, and Ben Simmons could be the X factor. He's great on defense, and he's good at getting teams out in the break, either finishing or finding the open man. So, I think the Nets are a scary team if they gel, but I don't think they have the coach. So, for that reason of not having the coach, I put them at an 8. If they'd have a coach, they would be the biggest.
Dude, imagine Eric Spoelstra with the Nets.
Oh my God. Yeah.
They'd be a 10.
They'd be a 10 plus. They'd be a 10 plus. They'd be insane.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. This is going to be fun. The Nets with Eric Spoelstra would be what everybody in mainstream sports media thinks that the Nets are.
Yeah. Agreed.
That team has way too good of a roster for all of the hype that they get to have not made it past the second round and then to still be put as a title favorite every season.
It's ridiculous. It's because of KD and Kyrie. Kyrie's the problem.
And not a problem.
Not that I'm letting KD get off the schneid here. But, because he did request a trade. Once upon a time, Kobe requested a trade from the Lakers. And he was struggling in the playoffs.
He was almost traded to the Raptors, I heard.
Yeah, losing in the first round, in 4 games or 5 games, whatever it was. And Kobe was not Kobe. He found that killer instinct and turned into the Black Mamba. But, KD has that ability to just turn it on and turn into an elite scorer whenever the hell he wants to.
Yeah.
He's definitely one of the top 5 greatest scorers in this game's history. When the hell are you ever going to find another 7-footer that shoots from 30 feet? I mean, we might get one next year in the draft. Wembanyama or whatever his name is. But KD's a beast.
A couple of things in the comments. Anthony, the Celtics have a lot of ref criers, honestly. Like Marcus Smart does a lot of crying to the refs. Al Horford does a lot of crying to the refs. And then Pat, KD, he's, as far as the Nets go, they haven't made it out of the second round. I don't understand why everybody has them as like the 1 seed and playing the Lakers in the finals. Like, cool, they're from New York and they have KD. Like, that doesn't mean that there's not other teams in the East that are just as qualified to be in those conversations.
Isaac,
but I get it. We're from Wisconsin, so the Bucks have Giannis, and that's it.
Isaac, I love you, and I apologize. That shit made me laugh so goddamn much when they predicted the Lakers versus the Nets. I was like, oh, hell no, bro. Oh, do they not know that Anthony Davis is going to be hurt?
In 2021, I took a lot of flack for having the Suns beating the Lakers in the first round of the playoffs that year and putting the Suns in the finals. And then I predicted the Bucks and the Suns in the finals and the Bucks in 6 correctly. And I'm just like, okay, yep, I get it. It's New York and Los Angeles, and that's all everybody cares about if you watch ESPN. But I hate that shit. One of the reasons Jake and I started this show is because we actually want to give Wisconsin a voice for once, because you turn on ESPN, they're probably just talking about Tom Brady, and then they're going to talk about the Lakers, and then, nope, look at that. Time for Skip Bayless to come on and argue with Shannon Sharp about stuff for an hour.
No, they talk about the Packers, but only because they're doing bad.
Touche.
Only because Rodgers looks bad right now do they talk about the Packers. If the Packers are doing ho-hum, they were 5-1, Rodgers is doing what he normally does, they're not going to talk about us.
There's more controversial stuff to talk about.
Exactly.
Yeah, I hate that about sports. Sports media. I miss the old days of Sports Center when everybody had an even amount of time. Nowadays, it's just talk about whatever is going to get you clicked on, and that sucks. It sucks. But Anthony, people make excuses when the Bucks won it all, and you can do that for every single team ever. You literally can. You can go back every team ever. Oh, if this wouldn't have happened, if Katie's foot wouldn't have been on the line, you can go back every single season and find something that if that wouldn't have happened, that team wouldn't have won the championship. So,
yeah, just like last year. If Chris Middleton didn't get hurt, are the Celtics going to the finals?
Exactly.
Probably not, but we'll never know.
Right. Yeah, Pat, I can't tell you the last time I just sat down and turned on ESPN.
I only turn it on when there's a game on there.
Couldn't tell you. If I want to watch something from sports, as far as sports media is concerned, I go to Twitter and I find exactly what I'm looking for. And honestly, most of my influence comes from beat writers, whether it's from the Wisconsin beat writers that are here, which one of them we're going to have on the show on Friday night. We're going to have Mike Spofford on from Packers.com. Or from other places, whether it's it doesn't matter what city it's from. If you go to the beat writers, those are the ones that are closest to the team. I would trust a Matt Schneidman, who writes for the Athletic for the Packers, over Colin Cowherd when it comes to opinions on the Packers, because he spends every day in Green Bay with the team. Colin Cowherd is in a studio. Like, I want the people that are closer to the teams, that spend more time on it and have their more trusted opinion. Colin Cowherd's just going to say whatever gets him clicked on.
Yeah, he really is a bum, Anthony. One day we're going to be there. We're going to be next to Matt Schneidman. We're going to be there, buddy. Colin Cowherd. Dude, he talked about Rodgers today, and I listened to the first 30 seconds, and I was like, not even going to waste my time. Not even going to waste my time. He's an idiot.
When Skip Bayless was comparing Aaron Rodgers to Justin Fields last year, I was just like, there's no fucking way that you even believe the stuff that's coming out of your own mouth.
Right, dude.
All right, so those are the teams we have as threats in the East for the Bucks. Yep. It'll certainly be an interesting season in the Eastern Conference. So we're going to give additions and departures. So this is actually going to be kind of a short segment, honestly. The only departures really is just fringe guys on the roster. So, Rajon Tucker and Lindell Wigington, Marcus Bolden, Luca Vildoza, guys we already knew weren't going to be factors on the team anyways. And then when it comes to additions, it's basically Joe Ingles and Marjan Beauchamp are the additions. Hugo Bassan was also drafted, but he's going to spend the year in the New Zealand league, basically just developing more. Dan Patrick is a little bit better. Skip Bayless at RG3 would be better than Rodgers. Yeah.
He said that about Tebow too.
Yeah, and Johnny Manziel.
Yep.
And yeah, Pat, that's pretty much how all of them are, is just so people watch. People, it's basically people like that, is that negative attention is still attention. And Jake and I will not do that. We would rather have a smaller, more dedicated fan base of people that actually enjoy watching our show and interacting with us than to, come over here and I'm going to take everything that's in the background and I'm going to smash it all on the ground because the Packers started 3-3 just to get people watch me get mad. That's not the type of thing that Jake and I are going for. We're going for quality, optimism, and just like enjoying Wisconsin sports, because that's what we've done our entire lives.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So for me, as far as additions and departures are concerned, I would almost turn this around and just frame it as focusing on retention and then addition. So I'll smash everything for you off camera.
That gets expensive, Matt. It could be really expensive this year.
So What are your thoughts on? Been a long time since you ripped your shirt over again. Last time I did it was the Brandon Bostic fumble. That was the last time. So 2014.
Long. That's pretty long time.
And the only other time it happened was the Badgers national championship game when Justice Winslow stepped out of bounds. Those are the only 2 times that I ripped a shirt. So give me your thoughts on additions and departures.
Yeah, like you said, just retention. So bringing Bobby, Ibaka, Pat, West, those guys, glue guys.
Von Carter.
That's very important. Isaac's talking about it in the comments. Joe Ingles is quietly going to be the pickup of the year. I expect that to happen towards the end of the year. We're gearing up for the playoffs, and he's really getting integrated with the guys. I think people are going to start seeing how important Joe Ingles will be. Marjon Beauchamp is an X factor. He could really, really take this team and give it some young blood that it so badly needs. Give it that little bit of bolt of energy from a guy in the 7-8 spot. Just come in, give me 8 points, play some defense. You never know. Bud needs to play Ibaka more.
I agree, Anthony. I actually agree. I actually really liked what I saw from Ibaka in the preseason. He looks like he's playing with energy. He looks younger than he did towards the end of last season. And maybe being traded off a Clippers team that's like, hey, we have a lot of talent on our roster when it's healthy, if it's ever healthy. And getting into Milwaukee and being in a place where his influence, being a guy who's going to come in and play really hard-nosed defense is appreciated, which I think is something that Budenholzer probably instilled, being more of a, people are going to be like, oh, he's not a defensive coach, but Budenholzer is a defensive-minded coach. He just prioritizes defending the paint because that's where the highest percentage of shots are made. So I do agree on playing Ibaka more. And it stems down for 2 reasons. So one is to protect Brook Lopez's health, just so that he doesn't play a ton of minutes throughout the regular season. The other being to protect Giannis Antetokounmpo from playing the center position.
Yes.
If we get into a game where we're playing against the 76ers, I said this last year, if the Bucks had matched up in a playoff series against the 76ers, that's what Ibaka was traded for, was to defend Joel Embiid. So that Giannis didn't have to. He can defend Bam Adebayo so that Giannis doesn't have to. He doesn't have to go and bang with those guys. And the Clint Capellas. So like those types of players, Julius Randle, for example, so that Giannis doesn't have to bang into those guys all game and then be worn out at the end of the game. So I really agree on the Ibaka needs to play more.
Okay, so you're talking about this. And it's very strategic, and I agree 100%. But I love all the old dudes that are like, the best players should be matching up with the best players. You understand the pace of the game is faster now? Like, don't talk about scores, okay? And you have to look at analytics, and some old dudes hate analytics. You have to look at the analytics,
dude,
to see the pace of the game.
Real quick on the subject of analytics, I can't post a single damn thing about the Brewers without people going, well, have they learned how to bunt yet?
I mean, they probably should learn how to bunt. I agree with that. I do agree with that. But do you have to have a Schneid comment for every goddamn post? God.
Dude, I posted an article about the Brewers' injuries, and people are like,
don't talk about it, Isaac.
The Brewers learn how to bunt yet? Like, why? What does that have to do with injuries? Or I posted the video of us talking about the guys in the minor leagues batting with runners in scoring position. Well, have they learned how to bunt yet? It's like, this is about minor league players that can hit with runners in scoring position. Why are you talking about bunting? I don't want to bunt with runners in scoring position. I want to hit with runners in scoring position.
That would help. That would help.
Okay. Anyways,
do you want to answer Isaac's question? Any thoughts on Van Vliet?
No comment. I'm only here so I don't get fined.
Yeah, I don't like Van Vliet either, but I like him a little bit more than Tyler does.
All right. I'll let you continue now on your pace of play.
Yeah, I just love how they're always like, oh, the game the scores were this and this, and they were scoring this back in the day. Like, dude, the pace of the game is faster. Like, do you expect the Giannis to go down the floor as fast as he can, come down, block a shot, and do that every possession for 48 straight minutes, and then bang with a center at the same time? That outweighs him, by the way, by I don't know. How much does Joel Embiid weigh? 280?
270.
Okay. So 30, 40 pounds over the course of a game, that's a lot. Okay. So no, I don't want Giannis guarding Embiid. And then the next day we play the Suns and he has to guard, Devin Booker. I mean, the pace of play is the reason that they need strategies like this. And Serge Ibaka will be. And I was going to say we're going to see it tomorrow night. We'll see what Bud does tomorrow night. Dude, I can't believe we have Bucks basketball tomorrow.
I know, dude. I'm watching preseason and I'm like, oh, I just feel good that basketball's back.
Yeah, right?
Matt brought up bunting away from the shift with a guy in scoring position. And Jeff took care of the answering that part for me. There is no shift next year. Anthony, no, Middleton is not back tomorrow. Middleton and Connaughton are on about the same timeline. They're both going to miss a few weeks. So they're both going to essentially miss the first 6 games in October and then probably the first week of November. So they're both going to miss by about 10 games, 10 to 12 games or so. Anthony, I can share it on the Wisco Fanatics page. I wrote actually an article about if the Bucks should play more small ball or if they should go with more big lineups. Yep. with Pat Connaughton and Chris Middleton out. So I can share that if people are interested in reading that. I agree. You kind of touched on it already, the focus on retention, not only keeping guys for this season, but also extending guys. So they brought back Wesley Matthews just for this season, Serge Ibaka just for this season, and Joe Ingles just for this season. Mm-hmm. Javon Carter, they signed to a 2-year deal. So Javon Carter's here for this year and next year. Pat Connaughton opted into his player option and then received an extension. So Pat Connaughton is here for the next 4 years, and Bobby Portis was signed to a 4-year deal. So basically, the Bucks have their core, players that are younger locked up. They got locked up.
I was so excited when I saw that Pat and Bobby signed 4-year deals. I was like, thank God I could not stand watching them in another uniform.
I know, dude.
I fell in love with them too much.
They're both great guys for the city of Milwaukee, too.
Yeah. Not even just the basketball. You're right.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, even off the court, they're both great people to have in Milwaukee. Javon Carter for 6th man of the year.
Over Pat Connaughton?
Over Bobby Portis?
He ain't going over either of them dudes. Bobby Portis might be a starter from what I've been hearing, so
we'll see. I think Bobby Portis might be a starter in the absence of Chris Middleton, but I don't think he's going to start the whole season. Yes, Jeff, I do think Yelich and Rowdy both have huge effects on the shift. I think we talked about that last week.
Dude, he's up for 3 weeks, man.
Yeah, Pat's only going to miss 3 weeks. He's only going to miss 10 or 12 games. I mean, he can still play.
The season goes all the way till April, man. Games. It's October right now.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Matt,
you can't say Javon Carter for 6th man of the year and then walk it back. You got to wear that. Put it on a t-shirt.
Yeah, man. I'm going to make you start throwing shit in here, man.
Dude, hey, he shot 55% from 3-point line for 20 games last year. Put that on a t-shirt and wear it. Let the freak flag fly.
I love some Javon Carter. Don't get me wrong. Me and Tyler were just talking about him yesterday. But man, Pat and Bobby, those are glue guys. Those are guys.
I'll wear them. I know
championship guys.
Hey, I would wear a Javon Carter t-shirt. I'm not be that way.
Dude, the Celtics versus Bucks series is going to be phenomenal. Except this time around, Giannis is going to have help, and he's still going to be dunking on them fools. Also, I don't expect Al Horford to turn into a goddamn superstar for 4 games.
Or how annoying was that? Like 70% of his threes.
Yeah, for real.
Thoughts on George Hill? He's going to be salary addition to a trade. This is how I feel about George Hill.
I will. Okay, so I gave Matt a challenge before, so I will give my straight up scout answer. George Hill on a roster is a valuable piece for veteran backup point guard and defense.
Yeah.
Obviously, he didn't show that in the playoffs, especially in
Right.
the Celtics series. But he's still a valuable asset to a contending team. So we could find a way to dump him, give Javon Carter his minutes. I'd be all for that. If we go into the playoffs with George Hill as our backup point guard, I'll be honest, I might be in the minority. Still okay with that too. That's just how I feel. He's had a good career.
That's honestly, Isaac, that's fair. He is that veteran leader, like you said. This is it's gonna sound weird. It feels gross, but some of the highest pairs of players, so 2 players on the floor together at a time, some of the highest on the team included George Hill.
Mm-hmm.
As far as plus minus is concerned. So if you go to NBA.com, you look up stats from 2021 and 2022, you can go on lineups, you can go on 2-player lineups.
Okay.
The first 2 are like a 3-game combination and a 1-game combination. Then you get to, I think it's 56 games, and the highest plus minus combination of 2-player combos is George Hill and Giannis.
Really?
Yeah. So George Hill, despite struggling in the playoffs, which is well documented at this point, he's a valuable player to have during the regular season. And he's gonna play some minutes while Pat Connaughton and Chris Middleton are out. We will see 2 point guard lineups for chunks of the beginning of this season. It's not something that people need to freak out over. So we can get that out of the way, is that George Hill is going to play a solid amount of minutes. But it's not going to be that way the entire season. Winning without Hill and then got worse when he came back. I don't feel that the Bucks got worse when he came back.
How do you compare 2 separate seasons?
Yeah, and
you can't do injuries. You can't do players that progressed on other teams. You can't do players that regressed on your team. There's so many moving factors.
Who was the backup point guard on the championship team?
Was it Jeff Teague?
It was Jeff Teague and pretty much Giannis. And Chris Middleton handled the ball a shit ton.
Yeah, true.
God
damn it, Matt.
Matt's trolling. We don't do that here. No trolling. It's not allowed.
I'm throwing this helmet next. This helmet's getting thrown next.
Actually, people don't like hearing this, but in the bubble, George Hill was our best player in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's pretty sad because we sucked in the bubble. We were horrible.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on, a lot of distractions and stuff. So, It is what it is.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler.
So let's go. Do you want to do bold predictions or record predictions first? Matt already made a bold prediction by saying that Javon Carter is going to be the 6th man of the year, which I will bring up every single Wednesday until the season is over.
I'm going to write that down. Matt, Javon Carter. Okay, let's do record and then bold.
All right, that's what I have on the banners. So record prediction first. Give me yours. I already know what it is, but
yeah. So Tyler's the OG head editor, and I just started writing articles myself. Hammered out a couple this week. I wrote one on the Bucks win total, season projection. I had them at 55 and 27. Dude, every time I see Javon Carter now, I'm gonna think of Matt. It's just I wrote down book it too, by the way, just so you know.
He put book it too.
Book it.
All right, so I went close. I gave the Bucks one more win. I had the Bucks at 56 and 26. I put them at the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. For me, it's looking at road games and the West Coast. Those are usually tough for the Bucks when they have those. And then the second half of back-to-backs. The Bucks, they start out most of the beginning of the season pretty even on back-to-backs. They have 1 in October, 1 in November, 1 in December. They have 2 in January, 1 in February. I'm skipping March. They have 1 in April. They have 4 back-to-backs in March.
Mm-hmm.
March is going to be a tough a tough month for the Bucks.
Yeah. By the way, Jeff, if we play the Warriors, we're going to smack the hell out of them in the finals. Name one person on that team stopping Giannis. And if you can name somebody, and if you say Draymond Green, I swear to God on everything. I swear on everything. That little midget ain't stopping Giannis. I don't care. Giannis is a literal bulldozer. What's your ideal opponent round one of the Eastern Conference playoffs? So,
Can I pick a team that's not going to make the playoffs?
Do you mean ideal for like the Bucks' sake or for our entertainment sake? Because that's two different avenues.
It's the same for me.
Who do you got?
It's the Bulls.
That's a good answer. Yeah. I would like to play the Bulls as well. That's a good one. Just so I can troll Chicago. Little warm up. I can't believe we lost the damn game to them last year.
Yeah.
What
that
the
was
hell?
annoying.
But I
Dude,
mean, it was only,
the fact that the Bulls won the second game of that series and then we're like, Bulls in 5, like, bruh. You can't honestly think that after the Bucks winning all 4 regular season matchups, the first game of this series, that you're gonna rattle off 4 in a row.
Yeah, for real, bro. And it took DeRozan going nuts.
Yeah.
For my
and
entertainment,
Wesley Matthews put the absolute clamps on him for the rest of that series.
Nope. I know a guy. You can't say that. I know a guy. And I'm kind of getting along with him right now, which is kind of annoying to me. I feel like I should spice things up, Isaac. What do you think? Should I spice things up tonight?
Spice things up.
Man, they sure do. All right, let's do some bold predictions. I think I got some good ones. I got 4. How many do you have?
I have 3.
Okay, I did 4. I don't know.
All right, well, you can go first then because you have more than.
All right. Bucks will have 3 All-Stars, and they're all going to average 20-plus points per game at the All-Star break.
Okay.
Giannis, Drew, and Middleton, obviously.
That's fair. I feel like that's a fair prediction. Like, I feel like if I scroll back to my primer from last year, I probably said the same thing, and it was probably just as fair then as it is now.
I feel like all mine are fair except the last one is a little. I don't know.
So my last one is pretty spicy. Like I have one hypothetical, I have one reasonable one, I think, and I have one super spicy bold prediction.
Okay.
So, damn it, Isaac, you suck. Because he brought up something that I wanted to bring up, and it's Ingles instead of Middleton. I believe that if the Bucks had Joe Ingles last season when they were missing Chris Middleton, that the Bucks beat the Celtics in that series.
I can definitely see that. That is very fair. That is fair. All right, Batman.
I think he met it as far as your All-Star prediction is concerned, but he's going to have to make an All-Star case in like 6 games because that's about all he's going to play before the All-Star break.
Right.
But I mean, the way that Joe Ingles plays, he plays underrated. He plays underrated defense. He's a solid ball handler. He's not super athletic, and he can shoot, and he's got good size.
Yeah. He could defend and hit threes. That's what the main part for me is. Plus, he's a really, really good pick and roll guy.
He's a very good pick and roll guy.
So that would have definitely changed some things because Giannis and Middleton pick and roll is damn near unstoppable. So
I agree.
You
bring
that back with Ingles' ability to pass and find Giannis in the paint. Also,
and
if they sag off too far, he can just take that little floater right there and he can make that. So I definitely agree with that.
Matt, Ingles on the torn ACL, like on crutches and in a boot and everything. Yeah. All that.
It's gonna be fantastic. My next one, Giannis will average slightly less points per game, but he will average 7 assists per game this year.
7 assists per game.
That's one. He's never even averaged 6, but he's getting higher and higher and higher every year.
He was at like 5.9. He was at 6 for most of last season and finished at like 5.9.
I know. I saw. That's what made me be like, if I put it at 6.9, we could both laugh. But I wanted to make it real, so I was like 7 assists per game for Giannis was something that I was aiming for.
I can see the path to it. I personally wouldn't predict it because I didn't, but I personally wouldn't predict it, but I can see the path to it happening. Ingles for MVP on half a season of games. He is tough, and hearing players talk about him, like Matt said before, Ingles is hilarious. He really is. He's like a legendary trash talker in the NBA. Drew Holiday was actually getting interviewed about him on media day. It's like Joe Ingles is an asshole, but I'm glad that he plays for us now.
That's funny as hell.
So
Imagine having
I'm
to deal
gonna
with
give my
that.
reasonable
Giannis
one
dunking
next.
on you all game.
I got a little spoiler alert on it, but Bobby Portis finally gets his 6th Man of the Year award. Seen him block a ball with a boomerang. Isaac, have you seen the video of him dunking a basketball into a kangaroo pouch?
No way.
I was just thinking of stereotypical Australian things.
I know. I was trying to play it off.
Foster's, it's Australian for beer.
Those cans are massive, by the way. Those are giant cans. I can't even fit my hand around it.
Oh, God. Just going to chalk that up to things I never thought I'd heard Jake say for 1,000.
Okay, I'm sorry, but they're massive cans. Right. So, my next one.
Hold on, let me finish. I only got halfway through my reasonable one.
Oh, okay.
Bobby Portis spent like 95% of last season as a starter. This could be the year that he gets his credit as being the first man off the bench and gets his 6th Man of the Year award. Now you can go.
Okay. Very reasonable. Giannis makes 108 threes to move to 4th all-time on the Bucks all-time three-pointers list.
Totally see that. I should have brought my other notebook. I have a bunch of milestones that the Bucks are really close to. Mainly Giannis and Middleton as far as franchise lists are concerned. I will bring that with me next week. My last one, this is my super spicy one. Drew Holiday wins Defensive Player of the Year.
Ooh.
He is extremely well respected among his peers in the league, among coaches. He's been first team all defense. He's been second team all defense. You ask a player, as especially guards, who is your least favorite player to go against, and you hear the name Drew Holiday brought up constantly. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna say that's my super spicy one, but I do think it is still possible. Drew Holiday winning Defensive Player of the Year.
Okay. Here's my super spicy one. Chris Middleton will average 3 3-pointers a game and break Ray Allen's record for most threes in a season. The record right now is 229. That's
9. All right, I'm gonna do this. So let's say Chris Middleton misses 12 games and plays the rest of the season healthy. So that's 70 games. So I'm gonna do 229 divided by 70. He needs to make 3.27 threes per game.
He's Money Middleton. I can see it.
Interesting. That's interesting. I think it's possible. I mean,
you know who's third on the list right now? I was looking him up. So Allen owns the top spot. He owns the second spot. Third with 187 is Brook fucking Lopez.
That's awesome.
I said, what the hell? What is going on here? The year he became Splash Mountain, I was like, he was splashing. I won't lie.
That's awesome. Was that the 2018-19 season?
Yeah, it was that one. I was like, Brook Lopez. I was like, what one of these things doesn't belong here?
Oh, that's awesome.
Jeff, you might be right. Yeah, load management might have something to do with that. I don't know. I just thought
the fact that they have 4 back-to-backs in March doesn't sit super well with me.
Yeah, that's right before the playoffs too. I was like, that's tough.
Yeah. Honestly, for me, it'll come down to if any of his injuries that he had in the last like 8 months, if any of them are lingering. If he comes back and he feels great, like everything is good, he could play, like I said, those full 70 games. I think he's played 82 games in a season in his career. The COVID shortened year, he played all 66. Yeah, Matt, I agree. Back to back shouldn't exist in the NBA in 2022. If they're starting to do this, they talked about it when the Bucks were in Abu Dhabi. They talked about how they're starting to schedule the NBA a little bit like series, where you stay in a city for 3 days and you play 2 games there. So you stay there, say Thursday through Saturday, and you play on Thursday and Saturday, and you play 2 games back to back against the same team with a day off in between. I think the NBA could really tune their schedule up that way and have a bunch of 2-game series. It wouldn't
we
work
do it against
for
Washington all the time.
right.
Swear to God, every year.
It wouldn't work for the West Coast teams playing against the East Coast teams, just because the East and the West only play each other twice a year, once in each building. So that wouldn't work as well. But like, especially like the only reason that divisions exist in the NBA is to know which teams you play 4 times a year. So the Bucks could certainly play 2 in Chicago. They could easily play 2 in Detroit. They could play 2 in Indiana, like the 2 in Cleveland. Like those, the opportunity there to ease the schedule up a little bit and try to avoid some of those back-to-back situations, it exists by having cities that you play in more than once a year. So, they brought that up when they were in Abu Dhabi, because obviously nobody else was coming to Abu Dhabi to play against the Bucks except for the Hawks. So they were obviously playing 2 games there. So I do think the opportunity is there for that.
I agree. I'm actually on board, the more I think about it, with, taking some games off the season, maybe bringing it down to 70. I'm actually okay with that. Do we need to beat the shit out of the Bulls 4 times? No. Is it fun? Yeah. I mean, we got to play the Pacers 4 times. They're freaking horrible. That's 4 wins right there.
Yeah.
So
Pistons, 4 wins.
Yeah, between the Pacers and the Bulls, we have 8 wins already.
Throw in the Pistons, that's 12.
Yeah. I mean, so our records of 55 and 56 games starting to look a little bit more realistic. The only team that really matters is the Cavs, and I think we'll probably split with them.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Well, we have Bucks basketball tomorrow.
Yeah.
The real games, not preseason anymore.
I don't know. Ask Russ.
Matt doesn't want to take any games away from Indiana. Hey, I bet you can probably get cheap seats for that game, though, I bet.
Probably could. Oh, Matt, I got a question now. I always watch this highlight. It was from 2 years ago. Giannis had some monster slams against the Pacers. I just want to know if you were there. I'll have to find the date of the game, and I'll message you on Facebook. But, dude, he had one dunk where he spun, and he said, "Ah!" and he was just going crazy, and I was just like, bro, I was watching highlights.
Is that the game he had 50 in?
No. But it was a game where he had a monster dunk with his right hand, and then he had a monster dunk with his left hand, and then he had a dunk where he spun with his right hand, over his shoulder, and then dunked it on a guy. And after that, he screamed, took a deep breath, and screamed harder. And I always watch that highlight because it's amazing. I was watching Giannis highlights yesterday, and I was like, I'm ready. It's go time. I'm emotionally invested because he's emotionally invested. So let's fucking go.
All right. Well, I don't really know you could end the show any better than that. So
no,
I'm not going to try.
All right, buddy. Take care.
All right. I will see you on Friday night. And
Yes,
for
sir.
those of you that are watching that are Packers fans, we are going to have Mike Spofford from Packers.com on there. So we will have some good stuff on Friday night.
Yes, sir. See you later.
All right. See you Friday.
Yes, sir.